Hey YouTubers, today we have a common problem. This is a electric dryer. This is Samsung, but it applies to LG also, that doesn't heat anymore. And this is going to be really easy to fix, just take you a couple minutes. First thing we'll do, of course, is unplug it. That's a lot of voltage, huh? It's 220 volts. So we want to unplug it, or you can turn off the two breakers. So this kind of dryer actually has two breakers sending power, but best to unplug it if you can. And then we're just going to pull the dryer out away from the wall. If it's a stacked dryer on top of the washing machine, you don't have to take the dryer off. You can just put some Windex underneath the feet of the washing machine and wiggle out the washer and dryer. Then you get behind and you're going to remove the vent tube just by pulling it off, and then you're going to remove these Phillips head screws to pull off this plate, and this whole tube will come out. You can just kind of wiggle it out. Gives you a big space in there where you can access the area that needs to be worked with. First thing we'll do though is just remove any kind of lint you see in there. You can use a vacuum. I'm just reaching in with my hands. Watch out for sharp edges though. You get all this lint out of here because it could catch fire. We're going to set our multimeter for continuity. You can hear a little beep. Then I'm going to reach in and I'm going to check first the heating element terminals. We're going to see that here in this picture is circled with a yellow circle. We're going to put our tester on those two terminals. I'm actually just doing this with one hand. Got the two testing probes going to the two different terminals, and I'm looking to hear that beep. That beep tells me that there is continuity, but on this piece that I just touched, there is no continuity, and that's the high limit. So I'm going to pull off those two wires, and then I'll use my Phillips head screwdriver. I'll take out those two Phillips head screws so I can get this high limit out of here. On the gas dryers, you can just press a button to reset it, but on the electric ones, you have to replace it. So I'll use my continuity tester to just get a better test. If you're in a pinch and you can't replace it, you can just bang this down hard against a hard surface, and sometimes that'll reset it. So I'm testing it and I get no continuity putting it on the two terminals. Before you finish the repair, you do have to clean out your dryer vent tube, because that's the reason that this thing blows, is the lint builds up and restricts the airflow. It heats up too much, and as a safety measure, it cuts power to your heater. So before you really finish this up, you got to make sure you have cleaned out that dryer vent tube. On the gas dryer, you just press this button with the red arrow and your dryer will have heat again. But on the electric one, you do have to either replace it, which is ideal, or if you're in a pinch, you can bang it against a hard surface to reset it, but it may not last as long as a brand new one. And they're pretty cheap. We'll put a link in the description below where you can get one maybe from Amazon, and just takes maybe a day to get it. But yeah, once you have the part, it's easy to fix it. All we got to do now is just go ahead and put it back in. So to do that, because I'm kind of doing this one-handed, I'm going to use my Phillips head screwdriver bit, and I'm going to put the screw into one of the holes on the high limit, and then I'm going to put it in by hand to start it. Here's another view. And this is kind of like a magnetic bit, so it holds it somewhat on its own. I just want to start that top one. Push that through, get it in there. I can feel it line up with the hole, and then I'll just spin it by hand, righty-tighty, and that'll at least start it. And then I can do the same with the next hole, the bottom hole. Put my screw into the Phillips head screwdriver, I'll line it up, I'll go right into that hole and tighten it up. And now that I have this new high limit, it's going to heat up great. I just got to, again, make sure I clean that dryer vent tube really good and make sure that air can flow really well, that it's not obstructed, because when it gets obstructed, that'll make this thing pop. It'll trip it. So now I'm using my Phillips head screwdriver. I'll just tighten those two screws up. And then, pretty much done. I just got to put the wires back onto the terminal the two terminals. You can put either wire on either terminal. There's no polarity issue, so either one, you don't really have to take pictures of the colored wires. Just put those two back on. Make sure they're nice and secure. And then we got to put this tube back in. You can kind of wiggle it on until it feels secure. We're going to put on this outer plate. On some of these, they don't really have this outer plate, so there's less room. You have to just pull this tube out, and you still have room to do it, but on the Samsung, it does have this pretty big access port here with this big oblong looking plate, and once you remove it, you've got a lot of room to get in there and clean things and replace different parts without having to take your whole dryer apart. It's a pretty cool approach, saves you a lot of time. Just putting these Phillips head screws back in to hold everything in place. And then again, after I clean the dryer vent tube really good, I'll put it back on and I'll plug it in, and you will have heat again. The other thing that could go wrong is that the electric element itself could break, and then that is a little harder. You usually have to remove the front panel to fix that one, but more often it's just this high limit, which is kind of like a fuse. So I'm plugging it back in. And another thing you should check though before you even do this procedure is make sure that both breakers for your dryer are in the full on position, because if one breaker trips, you won't have heat anymore. So I'm going to wiggle the dryer back in. Remember, this will also work on the LG. LG and Samsung are very similar. It's kind of like the GMC Yukon and the Chevy Tahoe, almost the same thing. So making sure the vent tube is not crimped, has good airflow. And I'm going to push the dryer back, but not too far, not to the point where it crushes that tube. And then when we tested it, it was great. We had heat again. We have a functioning dryer. Thanks so much for watching our video today. I hope that this video has saved you some time and money. And if so, could you please press down in the video description below the donation link and send us a donation so we can keep this service going. Thanks again, and if you have any questions about this repair, could you contact me at scottthefixitguy@yahoo.com. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.